spin the globe in those years, and historians now believe that a massive eruption of the Huayna Putina volcano in Peru in 1600 might have been the cause of those failed harvests. True or not, it was Boris Godunov who was blamed for the famine. Professor Krzysztof Lazarski of Lazarski University in Warsaw.
Boris Godunov was a Muscovite boyar, but of lower rank, who came from Mongolian stock. And suddenly he was put in a position of power. He was certainly an able man, but the fact that he was outside the inner circle, the fact that he was of a lower rank, worked against him.
Ranged against our Tsar Boris Fyodorovich and his fracturing Muscovite establishment was the alliance of Poland-Lithuania.
Poland-Lithuania is at this period the dominant power in Eastern Europe. We have a vision of the history of Eastern Europe that is written backwards, i.e. because of what Russia became, Russia is assumed to have been important at all points. But Poland-Lithuania, which had formed a political union since 1386 and had strengthened it considerably in 1569, by so doing had created itself as a major power that was well able to defend itself and indeed expand its borders.
Into this uneasy balance of power between Old Muscovy and Poland-Lithuania stepped the so-called false Dmitry Ivanovich, claiming to be the son of Ivan, or Ivan, the Terrible, and so the rightful Tsar.
In 1605, he is on the Muscovite territory and is threatening the power of Boris Godunov. In April, Godunov suddenly dies, and that completely changes the situation. As I mentioned earlier, Godunov was an able ruler, and probably he could divert the situation into his own advantage had he survived, but he didn't. Therefore, without any resistance, false Dmitry emerges in Moscow and is crowned as a Tsar.
Which is pretty much where Mussorgsky's opera in its longer version ends. It's made clear in that iteration of the narrative that Dmitry is a charlatan. Professor Frost isn't convinced either way, but doesn't look to the opera for accurate historical insights.
It says a lot more about the 19th century, and indeed the opera is based on a play by Pushkin, whose original version was censored heavily by the official censor under Nicholas I. It is not really a reflection of what happened in the time of trouble. It is more a reflection of the strong hold of the propaganda that was subsequently put out by those who wished to justify the assassination.
The time of troubles is nothing if not complex, beginning with Boris's death in 1605, and then having the added catalyst of false Dmitry's assassination a year later. He'd just married a Polish and Catholic noblewoman, Marina Mniszek, and as a result provoked fierce opposition from Muscovite locals, led by yet another important character in this tale, the boyar Shuisky.
The consequences of Dmitry's assassination were considerable. It was an assassination by deception, as it were. The Poles who were present in Moscow for the wedding of Dmitry were not at all popular. And so actually, on the morning of 17th of May 1606, when Dmitry was assassinated, Shuisky secured the gate from Red Square into the Kremlin and sounded the tocsin and called out the people and said, "The Poles are wanting to assassinate the Tsar." So the mob came out and attacked the Poles. And then Shuisky and his boys went in and assassinated Dmitry, which the mob did not want because Dmitry was quite popular. But then the Poles come in mass. They do get involved officially and defeat Shuisky. Shuisky is defeated in 1610. The Poles win a big battle at Klushino, and Shuisky and his brother are brought to Warsaw and humiliated before the king. There's a Polish garrison in the Kremlin for 2 years, from 1610 to 1612, and the Poles besiege Moscow once again in 1617 before peace is made. And it's that sort of vision that becomes embedded in Russian historical memory. 1612 has been made a day of national remembrance of what the Poles had done. There's been a dreadful recent film made about it.
And as I understand it, that day is actually the 4th.